What percent of the police live in the city?
About 5% or so.
5%, so 95% don't live in the city.
Yes, sir.
So when you say that the vast majority of the percentage goes towards salaries, etc.,
Yes, sir.
fringe benefits, that means that they take their money on 81, go to outside the city, pay taxes in those communities that have some of the best schools while we have an underfunded school district.
$60 million up.
So I just want to put into context what we're talking about, because it's really easy to say, Mayor, and with all due respect, I like you, but that was a very politician answer.
I'm sorry, what specifically?
We will consider and we will look. What we're saying is we're not interested in considering and looking. What we're saying is actually there's 50 million, commit to 20 million cut.
Right.
Because we're sending money as the mayor of Syracuse. When you don't have a tax base, you're sending money out of Syracuse, and not just for 30 years, for the rest of their life. Because their pensions, their health insurance, their families. So we are funding for other people's communities to have the promise of the American dream while we are denying it in our community. That's the context that you as the mayor have to look at this under. So when we talk about renegotiating the union contract, what we're saying is you can't play around with maybe no, y'all gotta go because you don't provide a service that is beneficial to the community, that is meaningful to the community. The services that you provide criminalize our community, impoverish our community, reallocate resources to suburbs. We are actually funding the suburbs, both in our police departments and in our schools. And to be clear, it's not just the fact of like the percentage of people. We're also funding what race of people on the police force. The percentage of race of teachers as well, superintendent, board president. So we want to put in context because it's not just a class issue, it's a race issue. We're telling black and brown people and poor people, you don't matter. The devil's in the data and in the details. Mayor, respectfully, it is not acceptable for us to be here considering. We got to be bold. You said you were going to rise above. That's your campaign slogan.
Yes,
we have to rise. I'm sorry, I'll be done in a second. We have to rise to that level.
Right.
We have to say we can't accept a system that allows for police officers and payouts of a union contract. By the way, we listen to Jeff Piedmont and the teachers union above the people who live here. Jeff Piedmont is deplorable. Yeah, I called you out, Jeff. I'm totally okay with it. Because that commentary is demeaning and disrespectful. And it has no place in civil society. The way that they spoke about the chief as a black man. You're overweight, you're this, that's deplorable. If they don't respect the chief who's the head of the department, how are they going to respect us? If they don't respect the Common Council president, how are they going to respect us? So we're not asking, again, I want us to reframe the narrative and the conversation we're having. We're not begging. We're not here to say please. We're saying we expect you to do it. And not in a year, in May 2021. Did the council approve the budget yet?
Yes.
She just shook her head no.
Which budget?
The fiscal 2021 budget.
Yes.
Okay, and is there any clause that precludes you from being able to reallocate resources? No, there's not. There's nothing. There's nothing, because there's nothing that precludes you from being able. I'm asking. It's a fair question.
No. So the reality is that there is a process.
I know. I'm asking, is there anything that
budget.
precludes you from doing it? I don't want to know that there's a process. We assume there's a process. Is there anything that precludes you from being able to reconsider the funding as articulated in the budget?
No.
No, there's not. So we should, in 2 weeks, be able to get an understanding of the timeline whereby you all are going to begin to think about how we're reallocating resources. That's not a request. And you all can decide you're not going to do it.
Right.
And then we will figure out what we're going to do moving forward. What we're saying is that's what we're demanding. So we're not requesting, we're not imploring, we're not requiring, we're not interested in a dialogue about. What we're saying is that $50 million towards suppressing, as Carol Baum said, targeting communities by occupying forces. This is not Palestine. Palestinians shouldn't experience that, which is why there's solidarity between Black Lives Matter activists and Palestinian activists, because we both understand what being occupied forces looks like. When you talk about a ghetto, the language of ghetto comes from World War II, where Nazi Germany exterminated people. And it wasn't just exterminated in killing them. It was exterminating them in applying resource extraction, in denying them job opportunities, and then it led to their extermination. So we have to be clear in understanding that the institution, and I don't want to talk about police officers because it's really easy to do that. The institution evolves out of white supremacy. It exists out of the concept of ensuring that slaves would be maintained. It then evolved to facilitating the maintenance of Jim Crow. It then evolved to maintaining mass incarceration. So when we talk about why we have a graduation rate, to make this full circle, why we have a graduation rate below 50% is because we suspended people disproportionately. What job you getting in the 21st century without a high school diploma? You ain't getting the job, so what are you supposed to do? This is the concept that you have to begin to reimagine there. That's what we're asking of you. And actually, that's what we're demanding. Because it's no longer going to be accepted that this is the way with which our community will operate. Business as usual is over. We are demanding a people's agenda. And we're here to say the agenda is happening now, not in 6 months, not in a year. And we will mobilize people to effect change in this community. Because that is what's necessary. We are only having this discussion because people mobilized. And we've got to make sure to the people that are mobilizing, you keep mobilizing. We got to keep mobilizing because that's the only way in the United States that anything has changed. It was never about people in power. As I posted, never ask people in power to determine the timeline of your liberation because they will always delay and obfuscate. And the body of evidence has been demonstrated. Again, this is not a personal issue. This is about what is about the leadership role that you told that you were going to take as the chief executive of the city of Syracuse. The buck stops with you, Mayor. It doesn't stop with just the chief. And I know you look a little mad, but it's okay. It don't stop with the deputy mayor. It's all of us are complicit in this. And you are either part of the solution or you are facilitating for the maintenance of the problem. I have George who's going to talk about, and you can respond in any way you want, who's going to talk about some of the issues around defunding and why it's necessary.
Thank you.